Maya Chen sat in the back corner of her xenobiology class, her worn notebook open to a page covered in detailed sketches of Zephyrian bone structures. While Professor Valdez droned on about interspecies anatomy, Maya's pencil moved across the paper with practiced precision, capturing every ridge and hollow of the alien skeleton displayed on the holographic projector. Her classmates barely noticed her. They never did. In the 3 years since humanity had joined the Galactic Educational Exchange Program, Maya had perfected the art of invisibility. She kept her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wore the same faded jacket every day, and spoke only when directly questioned. To everyone at Terra Nova Academy, she was just another quiet kid trying to pass her classes. "Miss Chen," Professor Valdez called out, making several students turn to look at the back of the room. "Perhaps you could tell us about the structural differences between human and Zephyrian skeletal systems?" Maya looked up from her notebook, meeting the professor's gaze briefly before answering in a soft voice. Zephyrian bones contain crystalline calcium deposits that make them 30% denser than human bones. Their joints are designed for four-dimensional movement due to their homeworld's rotating gravity fields. Professor Valdez nodded approvingly. "Correct. Very detailed observation." As the class returned their attention to the front, Maya caught sight of the news ticker scrolling across the wall display. The Hegemony War continued to rage across the Outer Rim sectors. Another human colony had been evacuated. The Krillian Empire pushed deeper into Alliance territory with each passing day. Maya's hand tightened around her pencil, the simple wooden instrument creaking under the pressure. She forced herself to relax, to maintain the facade. Nobody could know. Not here. Not ever. When class ended, Maya gathered her belongings slowly, waiting for the room to empty before making her way to the corridor. The academy buzzed with its usual mix of human and alien students. Tall, blue-skinned Andromedans walked beside short, furry Centaurians. A group of translucent ethereals floated near the quantum physics lab, their forms shimmering like heat mirages. Maya navigated through the crowd unnoticed, just as she preferred. She had learned long ago that being invisible was the safest way to move through the world. It was a lesson burned into her memory by fire and screaming metal. Her next class was Advanced Combat Theory, an elective that most students took for easy credits. The instructor, Commander Hayes, was a retired Alliance Marine who treated the class like a casual discussion rather than serious military training. Maya usually sat in the back and listened to her classmates debate theoretical tactics they would never use in real combat. Today was different. "All right, everyone," Commander Hayes announced as students filed in. "We're doing something special today, live tactical analysis." The classroom lights dimmed, and the holographic projector activated, displaying a three-dimensional battlefield. Maya recognized it immediately, the Kepler station engagement from 2 months ago. Her stomach clenched as she watched the recreation begin. "This was one of the most decisive battles of the war," Hayes explained. "A single fighter turned the tide against overwhelming odds. Alliance intelligence still hasn't identified the pilot, but the tactical data is extraordinary." Maya watched her own handiwork unfold in miniature. The lone fighter craft, designation unknown, weaved through the Krillian fleet like a silver ghost. Each movement was precise, calculated, lethal. She remembered every moment, the weight of the control stick in her hands, the burn of G-forces against her chest, the cold clarity that had settled over her mind when she realized what had to be done. "Notice the flight pattern," Hayes continued, pointing at the hologram. "This isn't standard Alliance training. The pilot uses techniques I've never seen before. Look at this maneuver." The projection showed the fighter diving directly toward a Krillian dreadnought, pulling up at the last second to fire a concentrated burst into the ship's reactor core. The dreadnought exploded in a brilliant flash, taking 2 nearby cruisers with it. "That's a suicide run," one student observed. "How did they survive?" That's the million-credit question, Hayes replied. The pilot somehow calculated the exact blast radius and escape vector in real time. It should have been impossible. Maya stared at her hands, remembering the tremor that had run through them after that particular maneuver. She had almost miscalculated. Another half-second and she would have been vaporized along with the Krillian ships. The really interesting part, Hayes continued, is what happened after Kepler Station. This same fighter started appearing at other critical battles, always alone, always at the decisive moment. The Krillians started calling it the Ghost Ship. More tactical displays filled the air. Maya saw battles she had fought across a dozen star systems. Each engagement was replayed in clinical detail, her desperate improvisation transformed into textbook examples of tactical brilliance. "Whoever this pilot is," Hayes said, "they single-handedly changed the course of the war. The Krillians have started avoiding systems where the Ghost Ship might appear. Their advance has slowed to a crawl." Maya felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The war wasn't over. The Krillians were regrouping, planning something bigger. She had intercepted their communications during her last mission. Operation Worldbreaker, a final assault designed to shatter human resistance once and for all. The class ended with enthusiastic discussion about the mysterious pilot's identity. Some students speculated it was a secret alliance supersoldier. Others thought it might be an alien defector. None of them looked twice at the quiet girl in the back row who packed her things and left without saying a word. Maya's final class of the day was basic meditation, taught by an elderly ethereal named Whisper in the Void. The ethereal's translucent form drifted at the front of the room, speaking in harmonic tones that resonated directly in students' minds. "Clear your thoughts," Whisper projected. "Let the chaos of the day fade into silence." Maya closed her eyes and tried to follow the instructions, but her mind refused to quiet. Instead of peace, she found herself reliving the moment that had changed everything. 3 years ago, when she was just 15, the Krillians had attacked her home colony of New Geneva. She could still smell the burning atmosphere processors. Still hear her parents' voices over the comm system as their evacuation shuttle was targeted by enemy fighters. Still feel the cold metal of the experimental fighter's controls as she climbed into the cockpit for the first time. The ship had been her father's project, a prototype combining human engineering with recovered alien technology. It was supposed to be a scientific breakthrough, a way to bridge the gap between species. Instead, it became Maya's weapon of vengeance. "Your breathing is troubled, young one," Whisper's voice echoed in her mind. "What burdens do you carry?" Maya opened her eyes to find the ethereal's gossamer form hovering nearby. The other students continued their meditation, unaware of the private conversation. "Just thinking about the war," Maya whispered back. "The conflict touches us all," Whisper agreed. "But you carry something heavier than concern. You carry guilt." The observation hit too close to home. Maya stood abruptly, gathering her things. "I should go. Homework to catch up on." "Running from truth only makes it grow stronger," the ethereal observed, but Maya was already heading for the door. The academy corridors were emptying as students headed to their dormitories or evening activities. Maya walked against the flow, moving toward the maintenance levels where fewer people ventured. Her destination was a forgotten storage bay on sub-level 7, hidden behind outdated radiation warnings and bureaucratic red tape. She placed her palm against a seemingly blank section of wall. Biometric scanners, invisible to casual observation, confirmed her identity. The wall slid aside with a soft whisper, revealing the bay beyond. The fighter sat in the center of the hidden space like a sleeping predator. Its hull was matte black, designed to absorb sensor waves and light alike. The ship was beautiful in its lethality, smooth curves interrupted by weapon ports and thrust vectors that could push it to impossible speeds. Maya approached the craft slowly, her reflection distorting in its polished surface. She had spent months modifying it, integrating technologies that shouldn't work together. Human adaptive AI merged with Zephyrian crystalline computing cores, Andromedan gravity manipulation systems powered by Centaurian fusion cells. It was a ship that existed nowhere in official records, built from components that officially didn't exist. "Hello, Midnight," she whispered, using the name she had never spoken aloud. The ship's AI responded by illuminating the cockpit with soft blue light. Maya climbed the retractable ladder and settled into the pilot's seat. The controls came alive under her touch, systems awakening with barely audible hums. She pulled up the latest intelligence reports she had intercepted during her previous missions. The Krillian Empire was massing its entire fleet for Operation World Breaker. 300 ships, including their flagship dreadnought, the Dying Star. They planned to break through Alliance defenses and strike directly at Earth itself. Maya studied the tactical data, her mind automatically calculating attack vectors and weak points. The Krillians had learned from their previous defeats. This time they wouldn't be caught off guard by a single fighter. But they also didn't know who they were really fighting. To them, the ghost ship was just another Alliance weapon. They couldn't comprehend that it was piloted by a 17-year-old girl who had lost everything to their conquest and refused to let them take anything else. Maya powered down the systems and climbed out of the cockpit. Tomorrow she would return to being the quiet kid in class. She would take notes on xenobiology and listen to tactical discussions about her own battles. She would maintain the fiction that she was just another student trying to survive in a galaxy at war. But soon, very soon, she would have to become the ghost ship pilot one final time. The Krillians thought they had seen the worst humanity could offer. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Maya sealed the hidden bay and made her way back to the dormitory levels. Her roommate, a cheerful Centaurian named Fuzza, was already asleep, her fox-like form curled up in the specially designed bed. Maya changed into her sleeping clothes quietly and lay down on her own narrow bunk. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of starfighters and burning worlds. In her dreams, she was both the quiet girl and the legendary pilot, two sides of the same impossible equation. The war had made her into something that shouldn't exist, a teenage ghost haunting the stars, carrying the weight of humanity's survival on her shoulders. Tomorrow would bring new classes, new pretenses, and new preparations for the battle that would determine the fate of everything she had left to protect. The alarm in Maya's dormitory went off at 0600 hours, just like every morning. She was already awake, staring at the ceiling where she had projected classified star charts using her modified datapad. The Krillian fleet movements showed a clear pattern. They were converging on the Centauri Junction, the last major defensive position before the Sol system. Fuzza stirred in the next bed, her whiskers twitching as she slowly woke up. "Morning, Maya," she mumbled in accented standard. "You're up early again." "Couldn't sleep," Maya replied, quickly dismissing the holographic display. "Bad dreams." Her Centaurian roommate sat up, her large amber eyes showing concern. "About the war? My family sent another message yesterday. The Krillians attacked the shipping lanes near my homeworld. Everyone's scared." Maya felt the familiar knot in her stomach. Every day brought new reports of Krillian advances, evacuated colonies, desperate last stands by Alliance forces. Each defeat was a reminder of what she hadn't been able to prevent. "I'm sorry, Fuzza. I hope your family stays safe." The sincerity in Maya's voice made Fuzza smile sadly. "You're a good friend, Maya. Sometimes I think you care more about others than yourself." If only she knew how true that was. After Fuzza left for her early linguistics class, Maya accessed her secure communication system through what appeared to be a routine homework assignment. The code she had developed was hidden in the mathematical equations of a theoretical physics paper. To any observer, she was just a dedicated student working on extra credit. The message she received made her blood run cold. Intelligence reports confirmed that Operation Worldbreaker was accelerating. The Krillian fleet would reach the Centauri Junction in 72 hours. Alliance Command was pulling back all remaining forces for a final defensive stand around Earth itself. They were abandoning the outer colonies. Billions of people would be left defenseless. Maya closed the communication channel and sat in silence, processing the implications. The Alliance Military Command thought they were being strategic, preserving their remaining forces for the defense of humanity's homeworld. They didn't understand that the Krillians' real goal wasn't just conquest, it was extermination. She had seen their classified battle plans during her infiltration of a Krillian command ship 2 months ago. Operation Worldbreaker wasn't just a military campaign, it was genocide. They intended to sterilize every human colony they encountered, ensuring that humanity could never recover even if Earth somehow survived. Maya's hands clenched into fists. The Alliance commanders were making the same mistake they had made throughout the war. They were thinking like soldiers instead of survivors. They couldn't see that sometimes the only way to save everything was to risk everything. But Maya could see it. She had been seeing it for 3 years. She made her way through the morning routine of classes, maintaining her facade of normalcy while her mind raced through tactical calculations. Her professors noted her distraction, but attributed it to stress. After all, every student was feeling the pressure of the advancing war. During lunch period, Maya retreated to her hidden workshop in the Academy's sub-basement. The space was officially listed as a defunct atmospheric processing station, but she had converted it into a high-tech laboratory. Here, surrounded by salvaged alien technology and modified human equipment, she maintained the systems that kept the ghost ship operational. Maya activated her private communication array and sent out a coded transmission on frequencies that officially didn't exist. The message would reach sympathetic contacts throughout the galaxy, engineers, scientists, rebels, and others who understood that sometimes the future required actions that existed outside official channels. The first response came within minutes. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a xenotech specialist who had worked with Maya's father on the original fighter prototype, appeared as a hologram in the workshop. "Maya, dear, you look terrible," Elena said, her maternal concern evident even through the flickering projection. "When was the last time you slept properly?" "Sleep is a luxury I can't afford right now," Maya replied. "Did you analyze the data I sent about Operation Worldbreaker?" Elena's expression grew serious. "Yes, and I wish I could tell you that you're wrong. But the Krillian deployment patterns match their historical genocide protocols exactly. If they break through at Centauri Junction, they'll sterilize everything between there and Earth," Maya finished. 15 billion people across 47 colonies. The Alliance Command is trying their best, but they're outgunned 3-1. Even with their new defensive platforms, the mathematics are brutal. Maya nodded grimly. She had run the same calculations. A conventional defense had less than a 12% chance of success. But Maya wasn't planning a conventional defense. "I need you to send everything you have on the dying star," Maya said. "Structural analyses, crew complements, defensive systems, everything." Elena's eyes widened. "Maya, no, that ship is a fortress. It has more firepower than most planetary defense grids. You can't seriously be thinking—" "I'm not thinking anything yet," Maya lied smoothly. "I'm just gathering information." The older woman studied her through the hologram, seeing past the careful mask Maya wore. "You know, when your father was developing the prototype, he used to get that same look in his eyes, that mixture of determination and barely controlled desperation. He was trying to save the world, too. Maya felt a pang of grief for the parents she had lost 3 years ago. Dr. Michael Chen and Commander Sarah Chen had been brilliant scientists and loving parents, but they had also been idealists. They believed that technology could bring species together, that understanding could prevent conflict. Maya had learned that sometimes understanding wasn't enough. Sometimes the only way to protect what you love was to become something terrifying. "Send me the data, Elena. Please." The hologram flickered as Elena transmitted the requested files. "I'm also sending you something else. The final design schematics your father was working on before New Geneva. He never finished the project, but his notes might be useful." The transmission ended, leaving Maya alone with terabytes of technical data and the weight of impossible choices. She spent the next several hours analyzing the information, cross-referencing it with intelligence she had gathered during previous missions. The dying star was indeed a fortress. 5 kilometers of armored hull, shields that could withstand sustained bombardment from an entire fleet, weapons arrays capable of cracking planets. It was the ultimate expression of Krillian military philosophy. Overwhelming force applied without mercy or hesitation. But every fortress had weaknesses. Maya had learned that lesson during her first engagement with Krillian forces 3 years ago. She remembered that day with perfect clarity. 15-year-old Maya Chen, watching her world burn from the cockpit of an untested experimental fighter. Her parents were dead, their research station reduced to radioactive ash. The evacuation ships were fleeing while Krillian destroyers hunted them down like prey. That was when Maya had stopped being a normal girl and become something else entirely. She had accessed her father's research files, learning in minutes what should have taken months. The experimental fighter had been equipped with an adaptive learning system designed to interface directly with the pilot's nervous system. It was meant to facilitate communication between species, allowing organic minds to integrate with artificial intelligence. Instead, Maya had weaponized it. The neural link allowed her to think at the speed of the ship's quantum processors, to perceive time in microsecond intervals, to calculate impossible trajectories while pulling maneuvers that should have pulverized human bones. She became something between pilot and ship, a hybrid consciousness that could process information and react faster than any organic mind had a right to. But the link came with a price. Each time she used it, Maya lost a little more of her normal human perspective. She began to think in tactical probabilities instead of emotions, to see people as assets and resources instead of individuals. The quiet girl who attended classes was the mask she wore to remember how to be human. Maya returned to her dormitory that evening to find Fuzza packing her belongings with tears in her large amber eyes. "My family's evacuation order came through," Fuzza explained. "All non-essential Centaurian students are being sent home. The administrators think it's safer for us to be with our families when the Krillians come." Maya helped her roommate pack in silence, fighting the urge to tell her the truth. Fuzza's homeworld was directly in the path of Operation Worldbreaker. If Maya failed in what she was planning, her friend would die along with billions of others. "I'll miss you," Fuzza said, embracing Maya tightly. "You've been a good friend, better than I deserved." "You deserve everything good that life can offer," Maya replied, and meant it. After Fuzza left, Maya sat alone in the empty dormitory room and made her final preparations. She activated her hidden communication array one last time, sending encrypted messages to the handful of people who knew her secret identity. If she didn't survive the next 72 hours, someone needed to continue the fight. The last message was the hardest to compose. It was addressed to Commander Hayes, her combat theory instructor, and contained a complete tactical analysis of every battle the ghost ship had fought. Hidden in the data were hints about advanced human capabilities and suggestions for training programs that could produce more pilots like her. Maya sealed the message with a time-delayed release. It would only be sent if she failed to check in within a week. She changed into the black flight suit she had modified over the years. Its fabric embedded with sensors and life support systems that could interface with the fighter's neural link. The suit felt like a second skin, comfortable in a way that her normal clothes never did. Maya made her way to the hidden hangar where Midnight waited. The ship's systems came online as she approached, the AI recognizing her biometric signature and emotional state. "Hello, Maya," the ship's voice said, speaking directly into her mind through the neural link interface. The AI's personality was an echo of her own thoughts, filtered through quantum processors and crystalline memory cores. "Hello, Midnight. Are you ready for this?" "The question is whether you are ready. The tactical analysis shows minimal probability of survival." Maya smiled grimly as she climbed into the cockpit. "Since when have we ever let bad odds stop us? Never. That is what makes us dangerous." The neural link activated as Maya settled into the pilot's seat, and suddenly she was more than human again. Her consciousness expanded to encompass the ship's sensors, its weapon systems, its ability to bend space-time around its hull. She could feel the quantum fluctuations that would allow faster-than-light travel, could perceive gravitational currents invisible to normal senses. Maya guided the ship out of the hidden hangar through a camouflaged launch tube that emerged on the dark side of Terra Nova Academy's asteroid base. Within minutes, they were clear of the Academy's sensor grid and accelerating toward the Centauri Junction. The journey would take 36 hours at maximum velocity. Maya spent the time in meditation, her consciousness flowing between her human awareness and the ship's artificial intelligence. She reviewed every piece of tactical data, every weakness she had identified in Krillian technology, every desperate stratagem that might give her an edge in the coming battle. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, Maya Chen finished her transformation from quiet student to humanity's last hope. When she reached the Centauri Junction, she would no longer be pretending to be someone else. She would be exactly who the galaxy needed her to be. As Midnight raced through hyperspace toward the largest battle in human history, Maya closed her eyes and prepared to become a legend, one final time. Maya emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Centauri Junction to witness humanity's greatest fleet preparing for its last stand. 200 Alliance ships hung in formation around the massive defensive platform called Fortress Prime, their hulls gleaming against the backdrop of distant stars. It was an impressive sight, representing the combined military might of dozens of human colonies. It wouldn't be enough. Through Midnight's enhanced sensors, Maya could detect the approaching Krillian fleet like a dark storm front moving through hyperspace. 300 ships, led by the 5-kilometer dreadnought Dying Star, would drop out of faster-than-light travel in less than 4 hours. The mathematics were brutally simple. Humanity would be outnumbered and outgunned by margins that made victory mathematically impossible. Maya guided her fighter to a concealed position behind a drifting asteroid, using Midnight's stealth systems to avoid detection by both sides. She needed to observe the Alliance deployment before revealing herself. The neural link hummed with data as she analyzed defensive positions, weapon arrays, and command protocols. Admiral Catherine Torres commanded the human fleet from the battlecruiser Defiant. Maya had studied Torres's tactical history during her preparation. She was competent, experienced, and absolutely committed to protecting humanity. But she was also bound by conventional thinking, limited to strategies that existed in official military doctrine. Maya opened a secured communication channel to the Admiral's private frequency. The encryption she used was based on mathematical theorems that technically hadn't been invented yet, ensuring complete privacy. "Admiral Torres, this is the ghost ship pilot. I need to speak with you immediately." The silence stretched for nearly a minute before Torres responded, her voice tight with disbelief. "Unknown contact. Identify yourself properly. The ghost ship is a myth." "The Kepler station engagement," Maya replied calmly. "I destroyed the Krillian dreadnought by overloading its reactor core with a concentrated plasma burst. The resulting explosion created a gravitational anomaly that lasted for 3 hours. The Andromedans are still studying the sensor data." Another pause. "How do you know classified information about that battle?" "Because I was there, Admiral. I've been fighting this war for 3 years, while your intelligence services tried to figure out who I am." Torres's next words carried the weight of desperate hope. "If you're really the ghost ship pilot, then you know we need every advantage we can get. The Krillians will be here soon." Maya checked her chronometer. 3 hours and 42 minutes. "I'm transmitting tactical data about Operation Worldbreaker. The Krillians aren't just planning to defeat your fleet, Admiral. They're planning genocide, complete sterilization of every human colony between here and Earth." The data stream included intercepted communications, tactical assessments, and detailed schematics of Krillian genocide protocols. Maya had compiled it during months of infiltrating enemy positions, risking everything to gather intelligence that official channels could never obtain. "My God," Torres whispered as she reviewed the information. "How did you get this?" "I took it from them," Maya replied simply. "Admiral, I need you to listen carefully. When the battle begins, I need your fleet to execute a specific tactical sequence. It's going to look like retreat, but it's actually the setup for something bigger." Maya transmitted a complex battle plan that would position the Alliance fleet in a precise formation around Fortress Prime. To any observer, it would appear that humanity was falling back to a desperate last-ditch defense. In reality, it would create the exact conditions Maya needed for her real plan to work. "This is insane," Torres said after studying the tactical data. "You want me to expose our flanks and concentrate all our firepower into narrow firing solutions. The Krillians will tear us apart." "Only if I fail," Maya admitted. "But if I succeed, this war ends today." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Who are you?" "Really?" Maya stared out at the human fleet, thinking of all the pilots who would die in the next few hours. Brave men and women who had volunteered to stand between humanity and extinction. They deserved to know who was asking them to risk everything on an impossible gamble. "My name is Maya Chen. I'm 17 years old, and I've been fighting this war since I watched my parents die at New Geneva. I pilot an experimental fighter that shouldn't exist, using technology that makes me more than human and less than human at the same time. I've destroyed 47 Krillian ships, infiltrated their most secure facilities, and spent 3 years becoming everything I needed to be to protect what's left of my species." The silence stretched until Torres spoke again, her voice filled with wonder and sadness. "You're just a child." "I was," Maya agreed, "but children don't survive wars like this one. I became something else a long time ago." The Krillian fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly when Maya's calculations predicted they would. 300 ships emerged from the quantum foam like predators entering a feeding ground, their dark hulls bristling with weapon systems designed for planetary bombardment. At their center, the dying star hung like a piece of malevolent architecture, its massive bulk dwarfing every other ship in the system. Maya felt the familiar cold clarity settle over her mind as the neural link deepened. Her human emotions retreated, replaced by the crystalline logic of quantum processors and tactical algorithms. She was no longer Maya Chen, frightened teenager hiding in the shadows. She was the ghost ship, humanity's impossible weapon, calibrated for maximum lethality. The battle began with a Krillian bombardment that lit up space with nuclear fire. Alliance ships scattered according to Maya's tactical plan, appearing to flee in disorder while actually moving into precise positions. The human defenders fought with desperate courage, knowing they were outnumbered, but refusing to surrender. Maya watched the engagement through enhanced sensors, tracking energy signatures and movement patterns with superhuman precision. She waited until the Krillian formation was fully committed. Their ships spread out in the hunting pattern they preferred for pursuing retreating enemies. Then she struck. Midnight erupted from concealment like a dark comet, accelerating to impossible velocities as Maya engaged systems that shouldn't have existed. The ship's hull began to phase in and out of normal space-time, using principles borrowed from ethereal dimension-folding technology combined with human engineering. To the Krillians, it appeared that empty space itself had become hostile. Maya's first target was a heavy cruiser on the fleet's outer perimeter. She materialized behind it long enough to fire a concentrated burst into its engine core, then vanished back into phase shift before its escort destroyers could respond. The cruiser exploded in a chain reaction that took out two nearby ships. The Krillian fleet commander, War Master Thax, aboard the Dying Star, immediately recognized the threat. Encrypted communications flooded the enemy networks as they tried to coordinate a response to an opponent that could appear and disappear at will. Maya intercepted their communications through quantum entanglement taps she had placed during previous infiltrations. She could hear Thax's frustration as his tactical officers failed to develop effective countermeasures. "The ghost ship is real," Thax snarled in his native language. "All units, implement Omega Protocol. Kill everything that moves." Maya smiled grimly as she watched the Krillian formation tighten into a defensive sphere around the Dying Star. Omega Protocol was exactly what she had been hoping for. It meant the enemy would concentrate their forces instead of spreading out to hunt human survivors. She materialized in the center of their formation and began the most complex, tactical sequence of her career. Maya's consciousness split across multiple time streams as the neural link pushed her awareness beyond normal human limitations. She could perceive the battle from dozens of perspectives simultaneously, calculating probabilities and trajectories faster than the enemy ship's targeting computers. Midnight danced through the Krillian fleet like a silver ghost, appearing just long enough to destroy critical systems before vanishing again. Maya targeted command centers, weapon arrays, and shield generators with surgical precision. Each strike was calculated to create maximum chaos while conserving her own ship's energy reserves. But there were too many enemies, and even her enhanced capabilities had limits. Maya felt the strain building in her nervous system as the neural link demanded more processing power than her human brain could sustain. Blood began to trickle from her nose as biological systems started to fail under quantum stress. She had perhaps 10 minutes before permanent neurological damage made further combat impossible. It would have to be enough. Maya transmitted a coded signal to Admiral Torres, who immediately ordered the Alliance fleet to execute the final phase of their tactical plan. Human ships that had appeared to be retreating suddenly reversed course, firing everything they had at precise coordinates Maya had calculated. The combined bombardment created a massive gravitational distortion around Fortress Prime, warping space-time in ways that normal physics shouldn't allow. Maya had spent months preparing this moment, placing exotic matter charges and quantum resonators throughout the system. As the distortion reached critical mass, Maya guided Midnight directly toward the Dying Star. The massive dreadnought's weapons tracked her approach, filling space with enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But Maya was no longer entirely in normal space-time, phasing between dimensions faster than targeting systems could compensate. She penetrated the Dying Star's shields through a quantum tunnel, materializing inside the ship's heavily armored hull. The Krillian crew barely had time to register the impossible before Maya began her final assault on the dreadnought's core systems. Maya's ship raced through corridors designed for beings 3 times larger than humans, its weapons carving through bulkheads and support struts with focused plasma beams. She targeted the ship's central computer core, the gravitational control systems, and the massive reactor that powered the dreadnought's city-killing weapons. War Master Thax appeared on her communication screen, his reptilian features twisted with rage and disbelief. "Impossible! You cannot be here! Our sensors detected no breach!" "Your sensors can't detect what exists between dimensions," Maya replied, her voice distorted by the neural link's electronic harmonics. "You've spent so long conquering species that think like you do, you've forgotten how to fight something truly alien." "You are still just one ship against my entire fleet," Thax roared. "Kill me if you can, Ghost. My death changes nothing." Maya smiled, and for a moment, her expression held all the terrible knowledge she had gained over 3 years of impossible war. "Your death changes everything, because I'm not here to destroy your ship, War Master. I'm here to take it." The quantum charges Maya had been placing throughout the dying star activated simultaneously, creating a cascading resonance field that temporarily phased the entire massive vessel out of normal space-time. For 17 seconds, the 5-kilometer dreadnought existed in the same dimensional state as Midnight. During those 17 seconds, Maya downloaded the ship's entire database, copied its command protocols, and uploaded a virus of her own design into every system. When the dying star returned to normal space, it was no longer under Krillian control. The virus Maya had created was based on human adaptive learning algorithms, but enhanced with alien technologies she had reverse-engineered during her missions. It spread through the Krillian fleet's communication networks faster than their security systems could respond, turning their own ships against them. Within minutes, the most powerful fleet in Krillian history was paralyzed by cascading system failures. Weapons turned on their own ships, navigation computers sent vessels into collisions, life support systems began venting atmosphere into space. Maya emerged from the chaos aboard Midnight. Her neural link finally pushed beyond sustainable limits. She could feel her enhanced consciousness beginning to fragment as biological systems shut down to protect themselves from quantum overload. The Krillian fleet was destroyed or disabled, but Maya's work wasn't finished. She opened communication channels to every surviving ship, broadcasting on frequencies that reached across the galaxy. "This is Maya Chen, pilot of the vessel you call the Ghost Ship," she announced, her voice carrying to human and alien ears across a dozen star systems. "The Krillian Empire's capacity for offensive warfare has been eliminated. But more than that, they have been changed." The virus she had uploaded wasn't just destructive, it was transformative, rewriting Krillian AI systems to value cooperation over conquest, scientific advancement over military domination. The most aggressive species in the galaxy would spend the next generation learning to think like the peaceful races they had once oppressed. Maya guided Midnight back toward Fortress Prime as her enhanced consciousness finally collapsed. The neural link shut down, leaving her feeling strangely hollow after years of superhuman awareness. She was just Maya Chen again, 17 years old and exhausted beyond measure. Admiral Torres's voice came over the communication system as Midnight docked with the Alliance flagship. "Maya, that was... I don't have words for what you just accomplished." "I ended a war," Maya replied simply. "Now I need to figure out how to live in the peace that follows." The next few hours passed in a blur of medical examinations, debriefings, and ceremonies. Maya didn't fully understand. The Alliance leadership wanted to give her medals, promotions, and honors she had no use for. What she really wanted was to sleep for about a week, and then figure out what a normal life might look like. Eventually, she found herself alone in a private cabin aboard the Defiant. Staring out at the debris field that had once been the most dangerous fleet in the galaxy, the war was over. Humanity was safe. The impossible mission she had dedicated 3 years of her life to completing was finally finished. Maya activated a private communication link to Terra Nova Academy. Fuza's cheerful face appeared on the screen, her whiskers twitching with excitement. "Maya, you're alive! When the news report said the war was over, I was so worried about you. How are you doing?" Maya smiled, and for the first time in years, it felt completely genuine. "I'm okay, Fuza. Actually, I think I'm going to be better than okay. I was wondering, is there still space in our old dormitory room? I think I'd like to come back and finish my education." "Of course there's space. I saved your bed, just in case. But Maya, the reports say the war was ended by some mysterious pilot called the Ghost Ship. They say whoever it was disappeared afterward. Do you think we'll ever know who it was?" Maya looked out at the stars, thinking of all the battles fought and lives saved. The quiet girl and the legendary pilot weren't separate people. They were both parts of who she was, who she had always been. "I think," Maya said carefully, "that some heroes prefer to stay anonymous. They do what needs to be done and then go back to living normal lives." "That's kind of beautiful," Fuzza said. "Imagine being someone like that, saving the galaxy and then just going to class the next day." Maya laughed, a sound full of relief and possibility. "Yeah, imagine that." As the communication ended, Maya began planning her return to Terra Nova Academy. She would finish her xenobiology degree, maybe study to become a teacher or a researcher. She would help rebuild the relationships between species that the war had damaged. She would be exactly what she had always appeared to be, a quiet kid who cared more about others than herself. The ghost ship would remain a legend, a mysterious figure who had saved humanity when all hope seemed lost. Maya Chen would go back to being invisible, taking notes in the back of classrooms and helping her friends with homework. It was exactly the life she wanted. In the depths of space, Midnight's stealth systems activated one final time as the ship vanished from all sensors. It would find its way to a hidden facility Maya had prepared, where it would wait in case the galaxy ever again needed the impossible to become possible. But Maya hoped that day would never come. She had been a weapon for long enough. Now she was ready to learn how to be human again, starting with the simple pleasure of being the quiet kid that nobody noticed, carrying secrets that would make the universe a little bit safer for everyone she cared about.